everyone, welcome back to another Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer match. This is going to be a rival match here with the Dowie against their bitter rivals, the Green Skins led by Wurzag. But for my army here first, we have a front line of miners with blasting charges. Honestly, I think miners with blasting charges and without are probably one of the best units, I guess two of the best units in this game. They kind of are like the Goblin Wolf Riders. You know, they're just this very low-cost unit that's really good at its job. A job of a miner is to be a roadblock in the way of any enemy unit. And miners are amazing. They have high armor and armor penetration, and they're super cheap. And then you just add a little bit more money to them, and then you equip them with blasting charges, which do so much damage to low-armored targets, such as, I don't know, night goblins, which there's some night goblins over there. So I think, honestly, these are some of the two of the best units in the entire game. Not even just for the dwarf roster, just in the entire game. And I mentioned the Goblin Wolf Riders because they're super fast. They're super good at being a fast attack unit. To get in there, cause disruption, deal a lot of damage, get the hell out. Like, I love Goblin, and they're so cheap, so cheap. Anyway, I'm already rambling. We're already like a minute into this. So for the rest of my army here, in the center we have two Longbeards with great weapons. These are not some of the best units in the game, but for the price range when I was making this army, I wanted some more anti-armor oomph. And these can hold a Black Orc in place. I got these specifically for Black Orcs. They're not going to beat Black Orcs on their own, but they can deal some damage to the Black Orcs as they slowly die to Black Orcs, so I got two of those. You can see that we are being led by a Rune Lord with, I forget which ones I actually took, honestly. Master Rune of Negation, which is the overall damage resistance, which I think is an excellent rune. I also have the Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin, which is something that you should take on all of your Rune Lords or Smiths. It's just a good direct damage spell. And then the Master Rune of Oath and Steel, which is going to grant you plus 60 armor. This one I'm on and off about, simply because the armor looks great, plus 60 armor is great, but against a dwarf faction, the enemy is most likely going to bring almost nothing but armor penetration units, so the 60 armor only applies to their non-armor penetration of like Black Orcs and stuff, which is not really the thing that you need to worry about in the first place, but I did bring it this time, maybe by accident, because I usually don't bring this, because again, this doesn't affect armor penetration at all. Your units are still going to die to AP high targets like Black Orcs, like, you know, Grimgore, stuff like that. But who brings Grimgore, am I right? Anyway, so those are what I have equipped on him. Also, we have the Gatekeeper's Belt, which is going to be a constant damage resistance buff that he is going to get if his hit points are lower than 20%, so it kind of makes the Rune Lord slightly tankier. Then we also have the Rune of Hearth and Home, which is going to grant immunity to psychology for all units around him. Again, I don't know if that's necessary against the Greenskin matchup. I may have forgot to put that off too. Unless he gets that by default. Honestly, I haven't played the Rune Lord enough to know. But then we also have the Forge Fire, which is going to grant a armor piercing damage buff to all units, so that will affect the miners. Well, it affects everybody, but it's going to buff the miners and the, you know, Longbeard specifically, to fight, you know, those Black Orcs or any other high tank creatures. Then for the rest of the army, so those are the two Longbeards. Then we also have a group of Dwarf Warriors with great weapons, because I had just enough money to get them in this army build, so I got them, again, to help combat against the high armor targets. Then on the flanks here, we have three miners without the blasting charges, two over here, one over here, because I assumed the flanking force would be coming from this side, and it is. Then in the back, we have two groups of Slayers, just the basic Slayers. And then the damage of our army, the reason that we have all of these units to protect them is going to be the core, which is going to be two basic rangers here and here to combat the enemy Night Goblin archers. That's why I got them, because I figured they would bring them, because the Night Goblin crew is such a good unit, or such a good like group of units to pick against the dwarves. What do I mean when I say the Night Goblin crew? I mean the Rusty Arrows and Night Goblin archers to accompany them and help focus fire down any unit, because these give armor sundering. So it's either going to be the Rusty Arrows with other Night Goblins, or the Rusty Arrows teamed up with normal Goblin archers, or even maybe Orc archers if they go crazy. But there's almost always going to be the Rusty Arrows Night Goblin archer against a Dwarven matchup. It's just like, it's just what happens. Like, do you breathe air? Yes. Bring it to Rusty Arrows against dwarves. So that's why I got these guys. But they're actually going to be very helpful against some other units we have here. Two Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers and the Morgrubus Mangy Marauders, which is going to be the Skirmishy Cat that is really good at armor penetration. Another solid pick against the Dwarven faction, I would say. You don't see this 100% of the time, but you will see this most of the time. So they're going to be good against those. And I also brought two Iron Drakes with Trollhammer torpedoes. This was to help combat against any Arachnarok spiders that they may bring as like a surprise, like, haha, we got spiders. These things will destroy spiders so quickly, especially if there's two of them. This is a really solid unit. I think this is the best of the Iron Drakes altogether, because they can deal enough armor penetration damage to even small units to be worth it, I think. And they just destroy large armor targets so quickly if you protect them. Again, that's why we got so many melee units, is to protect mainly these three things, because I also brought a cannon, which has been firing over here at a hammer of Gork from the goblins. So what happened here, because I've been talking a lot, we did one salvo against the hammer of Gork, and so the enemy player dropped the hammer of Gork, which is probably a smart thing to do because now we're going to be targeting these and not hitting the actual siege engines. So what they did here I think was a smart move. So what I did in response is I'm already shifting our attention over to this orc board chariot. They think I'm hitting this, so they're not going to be micromanaging this, and you see there, oh my god, one salvo just does so much damage to this orc board chariot. But anyway, for the rest of our army, I'm sorry, let me just pause. I know I've been talking a lot because anyway, so for the front line, we have 2 Night Goblins. We have 2 Orc Biggins on the side. They are being led by Warzag with the Here We Go, Foot of Gork, the Wall, of course, and they took their unique items, including the Bonewood Staff, which I love the Bonewood Staff. We have 2 Black Orcs, the Night Goblin crew, which I already spoke of before, the Hammer of Gork, which I already spoke of before. I kind of talked about their army when I was talking about mine, too, because I was talking about counters. Then over here, we have 2 Goblin Big Bosses, both on the Spider Rider, so they have poison damage. They are very fast, and they are good at... I think they're still good at killing, like, Rune Smiths and other light armored, well, Rune Smiths aren't exactly the lightest armored, but they could probably take them out. And then the Orc Board Chariot, which is already down to, 1/3 health here. So here we go. These skirmishers thought that they had a easy access into our right flank here because at the time they didn't see the Rangers, but, well, now they do because we are shooting them. I think Rangers are a really good anti-skirmish and anti-arrow unit in general because they do have the shields. They do have kind of low armor as well as dwarves are concerned, but with the shield it does kind of help them in a skirmishing battle. Over here you're going to see the power of the miners with the blasting charges. Oops, here we go. Into the Night Goblins. Ooh, that's just the first salvo. They have more. The blasting charges just do so much damage to low armor targets like the... I mean, look at that. They're already at half health. They haven't even gotten to the battle lines yet. That's why I think miners with blasting charges are some of the best. They also have Vanguard deployment. Like, they're really good. So over here, we're going to basically be shadowing these Forest Goblin Spider Riders and the Morgos and Marauders. I think with this group of miners, and I think I may be running one of my 2 Slayers back here too, trying to make sure that we keep the cannon protected. The cannon, in the meantime, did shoot up at the Black Orcs a little bit, but now I'm going to retarget them to the Hammer of Gork because I can already see that they're moving back to the siege engine, and I'm like, well, let me just start taking them out again. So we're going to apply some pressure back onto their siege. Over here, the miners are doing what they do the best. They hold. They are going to hold the line against these Orc Biggins, the Night Goblins, the Black Orcs are going to come in. We're going to try and intercept them with one of our Longbeards. Again, the Longbeards aren't going to be perfect in like a 1v1 versus the Black Orcs, but they will hold them for a little bit. There goes some salvo fire from the Iron Drakes, just getting in there and tearing them up. So again, this is what we need to protect. Let me get my little thing here. These are the units that we need to protect. For that specific reason, one salvo from these already brought the half-orcs down by like 1/3 health in just one salvo. So it's not the, Longbeards that are doing the thing. It's these units back here that are doing the thing. Which is why I'm also going to be shadowing these 3 groups with my miners back here. I think I'm going to be pulling these miners back as well. And I'm going to be keeping an eye on there. I already have a group of Slayers on these cannons and in between the Iron Drakes and their mobile forces back here. I need to keep these operational for as long as possible. One of my miners has finally fallen, but they held the line for a long time, so we're going to throw in another second group of miners, the Longbeards. We're going to be retreating these miners, I think, into over here. Now, unfortunately, right here, I did have my 2 Rangers on firing against the Rusty Errors because they are a real threat that we need to worry about. And I wasn't paying attention to that. I think I was mostly paying attention to what was happening on back here and make sure that they weren't getting into my squishy bits. So we are going to get caught here briefly by some Orc Biggins and maybe some Night Goblins as well. So we're going to take some damage, but I'm going to be able to run our miners here and there. And I think I may be running in Slayers or these miners. Someone's going to be coming over here to try and intercept these forces, including Warzag, who's coming into melee. We're going to be dropping also they're going to be dropping a Foot of Gork over here. I'm going to try and run like, run! It still clips us a little bit, and it's like, look at that. The Foot of Gork clipped the edge of our unit, but we were so tightly packed that it just did so much damage. The Foot of Gork is such a great spell. I love it. Anyway, let's keep playing here. The miners that remain are going to drop some of their Saptor charges into the Orc Biggins and Black Orcs over here. And again, I'm just keeping an eye on these units. They were not in skirmishing mode, so we actually are able to catch them with our Slayers over here. The cannon is just doing a whole bunch of damage to the Hammer of Gork over there, but I cannot allow this thing to do much damage to our army because it will if we do not try and take it out. Meanwhile, we are doing whatever we can to keep the forces of the Greenskins away from our cannon, and more importantly, these are more important than our cannon. The cannon is nice, the Rangers are nice, but we want to keep these alive. And unfortunately, the mobile forces are going to be able to sneak around our Slayers, who are now going to be engaged with these Orc Biggins, and they will get a charge on our Iron Drakes, but you can see that we are trying to get our second group of Slayers over here. We're going to run our Miners in here as well, and the Iron Drakes do have a ton of armor. They don't have that many hit points, but they do have a lot of armor, so luckily this charge is going to be actually kind of blunted by the Miners. We're not going to take that much damage, and the Iron Drakes will remain alive. We're going to get a salvo into these Forest Goblin Spiders, and again, they do so much damage, especially to large creatures, which the Spider Riders are, and it's just, the Iron Drakes do so much damage. Warzag's getting into our cannon crew, but Warzag by himself is not going to do that much, not really enough disruption to stop them from firing into the Hammer of Gork, and as you can see, we have made the Hammer of Gork crew route. I have kind of been ignoring the Durusty Arrow crew because they've only been firing into like our Longbeards and our Miners, and that's not the units that we necessarily need. They're a nice target unit, but they have not been shooting into our actual damage dealing units yet, so I've just been kind of letting them do what they want. But you can see that the enemy realizes the actual threat here, so they're actually moving these units closer, I think, to get into range of our cannon and our Iron Drakes. Sorry, never mind, they're actually firing into our Slayers. You know, that's a good option, because the Slayers are very susceptible to arrow fire. As you can see there, they are taking so much damage, but again, that's not really the unit they need to worry about too much, although this would take away one of my mobile reactionary forces, so it's not a bad call to shoot the Slayers. If you kill the Slayers, it takes away some of my mobility and makes it easier for other units to get in here and kill these units. Unfortunately, though, at this point, the Iron Drakes, throughout this entire battle, if they were not shooting at the Spider Rider archers, they were shooting at the Black Orcs, just destroying those Black Orcs with the help of all of our Miners, which again do armor-piercing damage. They may not hit super often, but the thing is, the Black Orcs, which you gotta remember, is that their melee defense is only 26. So even a basic Miner, which is like 325, with its armor-piercing damage and a melee attack of 20, is gonna still get decent hits on the Black Orc. And like, that's why they're so good. They can trade up so well, especially in the Greenskin matchup, where their Black Orcs are not really melee defense focused. Even a Miner can do some decent damage before they're totally destroyed by a Black Orc in a 1v1. And they will lose, but, you know, it's why you bring so many of them. But so yeah, so the Iron Drakes were targeting those Black Orcs, helping destroy those with the help of the Miners and the Longbeards, which have been heavily damaged, but they are still around and killing. And they also, you saw them just snipe Warzag right there under a concentrated fire. We're taking out the rest of the leadership with the Rangers because the Goblins were routed kind of early. I think I caught that. I didn't talk about it, but they did run in and they were routed off kind of early. I think they were routed in a fight with our Rune Lord over here that were mixed up with some Slayers. I think I ran my Slayers to try and fight them because they were on their mounts, I believe. There was a lot of things happening. Listen, there was a battle happening all over this area. But anyway, that's going to be a GG to Celestir and the Green Tide led by Warzag. The Night Goblins got mostly murdered by, or the melee ones got mostly murdered by those Miners with blasting charges. The Black Orcs just got held in place by Miners, and then they just kind of had roadblock after roadblock, which is how the Dwarf Army kind of has to operate. Unless they go super elite with just like a few hammerers, but I rarely do that, because when you go elite and like one of your hammers gets sniped by, you know, a foot of Gork if you don't see it coming, or like cheap artillery or Durusty arrows, basically like elites are really elite and really strong, but if they get killed by, you know, spells or ranged units and not allowed to actually do what they need to do, then that's a lot of money you just wasted. So I typically always kind of build wide with just a bunch of cheap Miners because they're so good. They are so good. They are so good. They probably should be increased in cost. Don't tell CA that, though, because I like them where they're at right now. Anyway, and the Orc Boar Chariot, they ran into the front line into a group of Miners, but I kind of countered their damage with the aura of the Rune Lord. That's when I cast the damage resistance aura, and then we just pummeled them, I think, with the Iron Drakes. I don't even think the Slayers got to them. I think the Iron Drakes just did like one salvo into the Orc Boar Chariot, and I think they routed them pretty quickly. The Durusty Arrows crew did do a lot of good damage, I believe, on my Miners and my Longbeards, but they did not get into the Iron Drakes and the Rangers, which is kind of what they needed to kill. But, I mean, like, they have low range. What are they going to do? They can't run into melee with the Miners to try and shoot the Iron Drakes. You know, like, there's only so much range. So it's not, like, really a misplay. It's just like they had really no other option. Because my army was built to be very deep, in, like, a deep formation, and they don't have the range to reach the back line unless they get really close, and it's dangerous for them because then they get shot up by the Rangers. Which is what I was trying to do, and that's why they got caught and got hit by the Orc Biggins. But anyway, I've been talking a lot in this game. Let's just go watch a cinematic view of some Dowie and Greenskins. Oh, little wolf buddies. And little pig buddies. You don't see the Orc Boar Chariot that often. Probably because it takes one round of cannon fire to take it down to almost half health there. Go get him, Rangers. Rune just hanging out. Oh! Troll hammer torpedo fire. There's the wall. Zag! Oh, what is this? A giant foot! Jesus. Half my doors. Like, get out of here! Slayers are coming! And then they just start executing Warzag in the back there of the firing squads. God. Poor Warzag. 2 Iron Hammer, or Troll Hammer torpedoes units going up. It's a bit much. I think the greenskins are on a route at this point. And then there we go. So thank you for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed some Dowie versus greenskins, and I will see you all next time. Take care.